Welcome to the Seahawkers podcast with your hosts, Adam Emmert.
It's unbelievable. I can't wait to never see Big Guns Hockey League ever again in my life.
And Brandan Schultz.
How is that unsportsmanlike even? To me, that seems overly sportsmanlike. That's extra sportsmanlike.
Go Hawks!
On a quest to own the West, yippee-ki-yay, we make the ground shake. On game day, 12 man, yeah, he's feeling it is vital. The Seahawks coming to take the...
This is the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandan Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me, a good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Awfully chipper, Brandan, considering that game was uglier than my sister. What we just watched there, that was awful, man. And my sister's ugly. Like that's how bad that game was. Just
I don't
brutal.
think that's true.
It is true.
that game was ugly, but I don't know about your sister being ugly.
Super ugly. It's that game not fun to watch. That was maybe the second least enjoyable Seahawks game I've watched under the Pete Carroll tenure. I'm gonna say, yeah.
We can talk about where that ranks out, but I'm a little chipper because I enjoyed my Thanksgiving weekend leading up to Sunday. I wonder if a few of our offensive linemen though enjoyed the holiday a little too much. Most of us have our post-Thanksgiving meal nap, but traditionally it doesn't happen on Sunday. It happens on Thursday.
We have offensive linemen.
So
on this team. they play. I wasn't aware we had those because it looked like we don't. I'm pretty sure we don't have any of those.
Well, we might want to get some for this supposed playoff run that we're about to make. So
right.
let's talk about the O-line coming up.
Okay.
Talk about Russell Wilson, one of his worst games as a pro, and part of that was due to the O-line, but we can talk about part of that was just due to Russell as well. And
yep.
On the bright side, though, the defense played well outside of the first quarter, and considering the number of injuries they had on that side of the ball, we can talk about that. KJ Wright, I think, really jumped off the screen in this game.
Yeah, KJ Wright had a monster game, making a few big plays. Cam Chancellor showed up, but unfortunately, the rest of the defense took a quarter to show up. But then again, we're missing a couple guys. It definitely was obvious. It shows you the difference between a team that is a playoff contending team and a team that can't even beat the Bucs, and how fine a line it is with how many players you can lose before all of a sudden you're that team. Mm-hmm. And boy, this game really painted that contrast to me.
And we do have some of those players coming back for the upcoming matchup against the Panthers. And so we'll talk about whether or not this team can bounce back against a Panthers team that's won the past two matchups between the Seahawks and Carolina. Mm-hmm. And stay tuned for our Seahawker Spotlight this week after the break to find out how you can help some Montana charities and win an autographed football signed by Hall of Famer Steve Largent and Ring of Honor quarterback Jim Zorn.
Yeah, that's a super cool deal they're doing. So definitely stay tuned for that and get in to help out those charities. It'll be good for your deal. You'll feel good on the inside.
Well, as is tradition, Adam, it wasn't our guys' fault that they lost. One of us has to fall on the sword and take the blame.
Right.
And Andrew Carson via Facebook chimes in, says, I'd like to take the blame for the loss this time. I have never gone to a Seahawks game, and my wife hasn't either. I decided to buy tickets, hotel reservations, and make the 5.5-hour drive down to Tampa. Had fun tailgating with all the 12s from all over the world and was expecting an easy W, so it must have been me. Well, wait. I'll just blame it on my wife. It's her fault.
Yes.
Anyways, did you guys notice that Tom Cable kept moving people around on the O-line? I know he was trying to choose between Sowell or Fant, but don't you think after the first few sacks he would have thought maybe not to screw with the line when three of them are rookies? That was a tough loss, but I know we will bounce back. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks, Andrew. Well, yeah, I mean, you and your wife are going to have a serious discussion about what she did that day. And how this is her fault, just so she knows and that you can correct that.
This is what you do, though, Andrew, is you go to a game by yourself next time. And when they win, then you tell your wife it was definitely her fault.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Do some A/B testing that way. You'll figure it out. But, Andrew kind of hits one thing on the head. And let's start there, Brandan, the offensive line, man, in this game.
Have to?
We have to, man. We have to talk about it because that was just such a putrid performance. And really, Andrew hits it on the head with the idea that there's 3 rookies on the offensive line. One dude hasn't played since the 8th freaking grade. And Tom Cable decides, let's take the one guy with some experience that's out there, and I'll keep swapping him in and out with another dude. Well, not back and forth. I guess he just swapped it out at second quarter?
No, not even second quarter. It was 3 snaps in. Gilliam finished the game with 3 snaps on offense. It was that very first series that Gilliam was in there, and then they pulled him and put in Sowell, and Sowell left him in at right tackle for the rest of the game.
So I think that Russell Wilson must have been talking smack to Tom Cable like all through the week or something about how good he was. It didn't matter what he did up there. And Tom Cable was like, oh, yeah? All right, let's raise the degree of difficulty a little bit, Russ. Let's see how this works for you. I think that's what it was. I think the whole thing, it has to be based on a dare. It has to. There's no other logical explanation for having an offensive line that looks like that. It's based on a dare. It is.
That's maybe the most logical explanation I've heard, because when I look at what the Seahawks have, we talked about it going into this year. Nick Vannett, the supposed great blocking tight end that they drafted. Yeah. How many snaps did he play? 2 snaps. He played 2 snaps in this game, Adam.
That's 2 snaps more than I figured he played. That's for sure. Yeah, they don't use him.
They don't use him. Luke Wilson was in for 2 snaps and he gets injured and has a sprained knee. But Brandon Williams wasn't in there for much more, 9 snaps, and he's kind of the veteran blocking tight end. And you would think when you have 2 tackles on either side who are struggling with a pass rush, maybe you use those guys a little bit more.
Well, especially, I understand if you come in with your game plan thinking that you're going to handle Noah Spence and company with the offensive line that you have, because you just watched them handle a decent Philadelphia defensive line. And so your game plan coming in is, I'm still going to go 3 wide or 4 wide even at times. Take Russell Wilson, put him in the gun, and I'll let Russell, dictate with quick throws and quick decisions and things like that. I understand if that's your game plan coming in. But by the second quarter, when you see that you'd have better luck finding traffic cones in the parking lot and placing them out there at tackle, just so that there's something physically for these guys to run around to get to Russell, maybe buy him a half a second, than the guys that you have in there. Maybe at that point, just like you said, Brandon, maybe you go to some max protect stuff. Maybe you keep the back end to help chip a little bit more. Man, but it was stubborn. It was definitely stubborn on the part of the Seahawks, or maybe just overwhelmed. I think, man, this whole team came out flat for this game, and not just the players, the coaches too, man. Like, there was just no energy. There was no adaptability, like, within the game. To me, it just seems like, oh, we're getting smoked on the offensive line. Well, I know, let's put in Sowell. That'll solve all our problems. Yet somehow that didn't help. I mean, with little Joey Hunt doing his best to hold it down in the middle. And I think, look, I love me some Joey Hunt. I mean, I liked him coming out of the draft, but man, you take the one good offensive lineman we have, and you take him out of the mix, especially the guy in the pivot, and you see the whole thing come crumbling down. Justin Britt is an MVP candidate. That just came out.
He might be the team MVP.
Yeah, that just came out of my mouth, Justin Britt might be your MVP, Brandon.
Well, we'll see this week when he comes back and really how much of a difference he makes. Because I hope it makes a big difference with Ifedi, because Ifedi was terrible in this game.
God, so bad. Glowinski wasn't a whiff better, though. Like, he was terrible, too. And then on top of that, George Fant wouldn't even get his hands on Noah Spence half the time. Wouldn't even get his hands on him. Fant had a couple nice run blocks within the game. I think like 2. But when it came to pass protection, I mean, he literally had no way to get out quickly enough with his kick step to get in front of Noah Spence. He just ran around him. It
was bad. And like you mentioned, the surprising thing is this is the performance that I would have expected to see against the Philadelphia Eagles front 4.
Yeah. Or the Patriots or the Bills, but not Tampa's.
The Pats don't have that great of a front 4.
I know, but they're the Pats. Like, you expect Bill Belichick to dream some way up to screw up your offensive line for the day. Like, I understand the talent's not there, but that's what I'm saying. Like, those are 3 solid teams, one way or another. And
so it surprises me that they can have that kind of performance and then go to Tampa and have this kind of performance that they showed. The Seahawks had net passing yards at halftime of 1 yard. 1 yard passing. And that was due to all that sack yardage that they lost in the first half. Russell didn't have much more. I think he only had about 30 yards of total passing. It was brutal.
It was brutal. And the thing is Russ had a bad game himself too. And so let's spread the blame around to where it's supposed to be. Look, he was off all day. I mean, there is a throw to Tyler Lockett down the sidelines, a back shoulder throw that he misses, out of bounds.
Goes over his head.
Yeah. There's the first pick, which a lot of people in the coach, say that's on P. Rich. Okay, fine. I'll take your word for it, but didn't look good. And then, another interception towards the end of the game. I understand you're trying to kind of get down there and you're running out of time and, it's a little bit of desperation mode. I get that. But Russell had a hard time staying consistent, just with his reads and his accuracy early in the game. He just was really off. It seemed like his head wasn't even in it.
I know. I feel like I should probably take the blame for this week's loss because last week on our bonus show, Adam, I talked about how I didn't think Russell was going to get the numbers that he needed to be MVP.
Yep.
And clearly this got back to him and shook his confidence so badly that he couldn't perform how he needed to against this Bucs defense.
Well, one way or the other, the football god said, "Oh, yeah? You think that's how it's going to be? Sure is." Boom. And they smacked Russell upside the head.
All because you made a bet. And you made a bet. And bets are not going your way this year.
What bet did I make?
Well, you bet that Russell was going to be the MVP, and I said it was going to be Elliott, and we bet on steak.
Oh, that's right. That's right, on steak. I just like, much like the Seahawks, apparently, I like to raise the degree of difficulty of my bets, early on. So we got a little work to do coming down the home stretch here. But I still think Russell pulled together. But the thing is he didn't get a lot of help in a lot of ways. I mean, look at, again, to spread the blame around. Bizarro Adam on the Pedestrian podcast, he's not a Jermaine Kearse fan. And the last 4 weeks, he's got a lot more ammo. He's got a lot more ammo with his Jermaine Kearse displeasure.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Who was the guy that Russell went to in the fourth quarter when it was 4th and 15? He threw it to Jermaine Kearse. Jermaine caught it. It was a clutch moment, and that's the guy he went to, and that's what kept the game alive.
I know. And then Kearse also dropped one in the third quarter that had kept the drive alive. A little comeback.
Yeah.
It hit him right in the hands and donk. I think he was like 1 for 7, like as far as catches per targets. I think it was somewhere in that range. And it's the same thing that's been happening over the last few weeks, man. Like the inconsistency has been pretty bad for Jermaine. And it's not looking good. I mean, there comes a point where you got to wonder, do we put in Paul Richardson and start seeing him get some more snaps? I understand he's a slider frame. He's a slider guy, but I mean, he is a little bit more explosive, and he's been making some big catches and taking some big hits. And I understand he made the mistake on the route in the game early, which cost him with the interception. But I mean, I'd rather take that risk reward at this point than the blatant inconsistency of Kearse.
Yeah, you don't see Richardson dropping as many passes. So, going back to the offensive line.
Do we have to? Well, yeah, let's do it.
To protect Russell, because I want to talk a little bit more about Russell because plays under pressure in this game. He was under pressure more than he wasn't under pressure. And
I didn't know there was a play he wasn't under pressure.
Apparently, there were 22 plays where he wasn't under pressure.
I'm calling bullshit catfish on that.
It didn't feel that way, did it?
No, it sure didn't.
And now that Gary Gilliam got pulled for Sowell at right tackle, the idea of adding, if you're not going to use your tight ends like Nick Vannett, or now that Luke Wilson's injured, or Brandon Williams is only in for 9 snaps, you got Gary Gilliam and a guy that plays both sides, a guy that played tight end. Why aren't you using him as an extra blocker on one side or the other? Have him help out Fant on the left side. He was going to be your left tackle anyway. Why not have 2 left tackles to make up for your 1 left tackle that you lost last year?
2 wrongs don't make a right, Brandon.
It might.
2 wrongs don't make a left tackle. They don't. Like, so the problem here is that one of the things that I like your theory in a way, actually, the idea of getting an extra blocker in there, and I understand where your head's at. I guess one of the things that I was questioning was, really Gilliam after 3 snaps to you was the problem, and you pulled him, and you put in a guy who played left tackle and put him over at right tackle in Bradley Sowell, instead of pulling the dude that I feel like was easily the biggest problem, and that was George Fant. Like, pull the rookie and get a dude with some experience in there at the position that he actually plays and use that instead of pulling Gilliam. I'm not the biggest Gary Gilliam fan, don't get me wrong, but I believe he's a slight upgrade over George Fant in most situations, at least this year.
I could maybe see that. I don't know why they didn't just put Sowell back at left tackle where they had him. Have some
continuity.
They talk about how important continuity is. And yeah, Justin Britt was out and you had the rookie in there at Hunt. But then you only have one guy who's kind of new, right? And that's Hunt. And I thought he played okay. I thought Hunt was a fine backup center and showed that he could be a backup center in this game. So that was one thing that was nice to see. If we're looking at plus sides out of this game,
he can play. He's going to need a lot more time with those young guards, though, because they had a hard time targeting, man. They really did.
Ifedi did for sure, man. So many times where you saw Ifedi, try and pass his guy off to Sowell, and then you saw the outside end come around and stunt inside and get to Russell. And then there was another play where he went to pass off the dude to Sowell, and Sowell already had the other dude, and so he just went right by Ifedi and sacked Russell that way. So there was almost nothing that he could do right in that game to protect Russell. And it showed. I mentioned the plays under pressure. Russell under pressure out of 45 snaps, under pressure 23 times, so more than 50%. And his quarterback rating, 7.5 when he was under pressure.
In some ways is a little surprising, isn't it? Because Russell plays under pressure very well. I mean, I don't know how many times we've come to you guys after a game and we give you Russell's numbers under pressure, and they're extraordinary. Yeah. So that was a little bit of an oddity. But the thing is that the pressure wasn't just, get the snap, hit your back foot on your drop, and then there's a dude that's almost there and you can make a quick decision and throw. No, it was ball hits you in the hands from the center and there's a dude breathing down your neck.
Right.
Like, I mean, the pressure was so immediate that you just had no chance. And I don't care if you're Joe Montana or Terry Bradshaw or Russell Wilson, you get pressure like that, you're in a world of hurt and you're going to struggle. And you saw that was exactly what happened. I think one of the things that baffles me a little bit, Brandon, is you get Thomas Rawls back and he basically gets 12 carries throughout the game. And in a lot of situations was effective. Not only that, but Russell Wilson was very effective in the read option game. And yet we barely used it. How did we go away from the run when the quarterback's getting killed?
Yeah, not only is the quarterback getting killed, but is very effective running the ball too. And I thought there were a lot of times where he could have stepped up into the pocket and run a little bit sooner because the guys were pressuring him from the backside so often.
Yeah,
and it left that middle open a little bit more. So you did see him take off once in a while, but I think the Bucs weren't really ready for him to be as effective of a runner as he was, and they never went to that.
Well, yeah, I think it did surprise the Bucs for sure. I think it surprised even Seahawks fans because we haven't seen Russ be effective in the read option game at all this season because of the injuries. And he's now at a health level where he's probably about 95% now, and he can actually be effective in that sort of formation. Now, the other thing is that when Russell Wilson is effective that way, it makes Thomas Rawls more effective. So when Russell Wilson is in shotgun in the backfield with Thomas Rawls, you can see a dramatic difference in the running that Thomas Rawls did, in the blocking that he got because of the way the defense has to respect Russell Wilson's running. Basically, Thomas Rawls, his first point of contact when running out of the shotgun with Russell Wilson back there was 4 yards downfield, plus 4. That was when he point of first contact on average. When he was in the backfield as a lone setback, it was like -1. Dude, it's tough to make yards when your first contact is hitting you behind the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why we went away from that. It's basically, in case of emergency, break glass. That's what the read option is for the Seahawks. And we just didn't go to it. And maybe part of it is that they were down early and they were panicked about the score, but 14-0 and then 14-2 and then 14-5. Like that's not a zillion points. In fact, it was 14-5 at the beginning of the second quarter. It's only 9 points. There's no reason to get flustered and go away from.
I don't think they were flustered because going back and watching the game over again, which was really hard to do.
Oh God!
It still felt like the team was never out of it at any particular point because the defense was playing so well. And it just seemed like every time the Seahawks got into a position to get points, they made a mistake. And right at the end of the first half, they were driving and in a position to maybe get some points, and they turn it over.
Yep. Yeah, and that happened 3 times. There's scoring drives that were going down the field, and whether it's a Russell pick or a Jimmy Graham fumble, and those are drive killers. You can't lose a turnover battle 3-0. Well, 3-1, I guess.
3-2. No, they got 2 turnovers from the Bucs because they had the Doug Martin fumble and then the Cam Chancellor pick in the end zone.
Oh, that's right. I keep forgetting about the Chancellor pick because at the end of the day, it didn't freaking matter. God.
Well, it kept it under 10 points for a deficit.
Yeah, I know, which is great because that keeps that streak alive, right? I mean, that was the one thing in solace that I could take out of this. I'll take that baseball score, I guess, if it means that we keep that streak of not losing by more than 10 points. I mean, that at least something to take out of a positive. I don't know.
Yeah, well, this clearly was one of Russell Wilson's worst game. It was the second worst based on his quarterback rating. The worst one was when the Seahawks lost to the 49ers back in Russell's rookie season. That was that 13-6 loss where they were playing the game close, and it was in San Fran, and that Frank Gore run that he busted through the line for a long touchdown that made the difference in that game. But I remember that. There's 4 games in his career now where he's been under 5 yards per attempt, and he was 4.5 yards per attempt in this game. The other 3 games was the 2013 game versus Arizona. They lost at home, and they were driving. Remember that game because they were driving late, and they called the INT for the Cardinals that bounced off the ground in Doug Baldwin's arm and up into the air.
Yep.
And they called the pick for the Cardinals. 2012 game versus Arizona, which was the first game of his career. And then the 2014 loss to Dallas, where Percy Harvin refused to go in the game in the fourth quarter.
Oh God, yeah.
Those were his worst games in terms of yards per attempt.
So my question is, Brandon, because one of the listeners posted this on Facebook, and I wish I could remember who it was to give him credit. But what uniforms were they wearing for all those games? Because they put out the graphic, and basically it was our record in every uniform combination.
Right.
And that's all. There's a couple where obviously the home Blues are that. Million wins because we always win at home, right? But then you get down through all the combinations, and at worst it's 50-50 except for one, and that's the white tops with the gray bottoms, and it's like 1-5 or something like that, or 2-7. I mean, it's bad. It was bad. Yeah. So we can't wear the white tops with the gray bottoms anymore. That's a rule now. That needs to be done. We can't do that anymore. So that could have been part of it, but. Man, the offense was bad. And I guess the other thing that shocked me was the performance of Tampa's secondary. Yeah. Like, even with the pressure, I felt like there should have been guys open more often than not because of the quality of that defensive backfield. Yet they played probably their best game of the season. I've watched a little bit of Tampa, and that was easily the stickiest they've ever been. I don't know if it was because they were channeling an inner Brett Favre Monday night, your dad died, play awesome sort of game for Alteron Werner. But I mean, seemingly that's the case because they really did play their best ball of the season.
Well, they did, and they showed a lot of emotion too, especially when Werner got the pick on right there at the end of the second quarter, right? Because you could tell that it was a big moment, and that was cool to see a team, really rally around. Well, as far as the emotional part, and to see a team really rally around one of their players, because I know it's cool when we see it on our team. So I have to, to be fair, I have to recognize that it is also cool when you see it on another team.
That's fair. I
just don't like to see it against the Seahawks.
Yeah, that's tough to watch, but. I mean, hats off to them. They did. They played their best game of the year. They were fired up and they were ready to go. And the Seahawks showed up flat. I mean, they really did.
Well, and you saw it too when there was the one throw over the middle to Tyler Lockett And Russell, maybe just didn't get it to him quick enough, but they were all over that play right in the middle of the field.
And just blew Tyler up too. I'm surprised he wasn't concussed on that play, man.
And that's something that you normally, like you said, you don't normally see from the Bucs defense.
No, not that physicality, not that level of coverage skills. I mean, it was easy. Like I said, it was easily their best game.
And we talked about it coming into the game. They were fired up because they had their first win at home against the Bears a couple weeks back. Then they get the big road win against KC. And then they're coming back home and they're playing for their division. They're only one game within the Falcons. Mm-hmm. And they saw the Falcons played earlier, got the win. So they knew they needed to get the win to stay in pace and have a shot at that division lead. So they had something to play for in this game, whereas really the Seahawks didn't. I mean, they're still in second place in the NFC.
For the moment.
For the moment. Every other team in the NFC West lost, so they're still ahead of everybody else.
Well, I'll take that explanation more than the idea that they had to travel all the way to the East Coast.
Yeah.
Like, I'm so sick of the travel narrative. I mean, you sit in a chair in the sky for half a day. I mean, the miracle of flight. It's not exactly difficult. I fly from Montana to Florida. I do that for work. And, and that's in freaking coach, right? With two other big dudes on either side of me, and at 6'2", that's tough. It's tough. But it's not that hard. It's not like I get off the plane, I'm like, oh, God, I couldn't possibly do my job now that I got off the plane. It's not difficult. You're not taking the freaking Oregon Trail, across the country to play. You're just not. And so that's dumb. I hope that is just put to bed right now. I like your explanation.
I think it makes more sense to me. And let's talk about some of the points that this team did score, Adam, because we've been talking about where there are a lot of problems. The Seahawks did put points up on the board, and their first points, it was a 2-point safety.
Yeah, it was, and it almost wasn't a safety though, because the refs somehow couldn't tell that he got pulled down in the end zone. I was like, I mean, we were at the Seahawkers gathering, and I mean, both you and I had our hands over our head, the second
safety,
Frank Clark goes down, But the crazy part is then they call it a hold out of the end zone,
right?
And you're like, what? And then the other thing that's crazy is the idea that Pete Carroll challenged it. I didn't know that was a challengeable thing, so I learned something.
I did too. And Mike Pereira came on the television and explained that it was a recent rule change that they're able to challenge the spot of the foul, because it seemed weird to me too with the safety that it seemed weird that you could challenge the spot of the foul. It's something you're not used to seeing because you can't review holding.
Right.
Yet you can review where the spot is. And I guess because it is a potential scoring play.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, I don't keep up with the competition committee over the offseason in some of these rule changes. I mean, basically, the only one that I followed was the idea they're moving the extra point back, and which I still like, by the way. Anybody who's whining about it, stop it. It's fun.
It makes the point more interesting.
Yeah. Give me something consequential to watch,
Yeah.
So anyways, that was interesting to me. And then they do get the long field goal from Housh Money.
After a pass interference penalty. That's the only reason why they got into that place in the first place. And that was a bad pass interference.
I was going to say, you can't tackle the dude well before the ball gets there. You can't just blow him up and be like, what?
I'm just saying they needed that pass interference play to get that many yards in the game. And really, the penalties in this game, Tampa Bay, 7 for 68. Seattle actually pretty good on penalties, only 2 for 27. Yeah. And you'd think having the young offensive line, they struggled, but they didn't hold. Well, you had the one chop block on Joey Hunt, the center, to start off the second half, which the second half starting field position, come on, guys. They started at the 13 after the Joey Hunt penalty. And then credit to special teams at Tampa, because their starting position from there on out, they had it on the 4-yard line, they had it on the 9-yard line, then they had it on the 7-yard line.
Right.
So they were inside the 10 or right near the 10 with the case of the penalty. And it wasn't until the Doug Martin fumble that they actually got the ball at the 41. But then the Hawks fumble it right back when Jimmy Graham goes down, trying to reach for, he wasn't even close to get in the first down, and yet he's trying to make something out of nothing. But
he got blowed up and went ass over tea kettle, man. Like, what do you want? Like, that's tough. I mean, he lands on his basically on his head.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Sometimes you fumble when things like that happen. I get it. It's a bummer, and similar to Russell's picks, it's a bummer. But I don't blame the player in the sense that they do so many other awesome things that I know this was an aberration and it'll be okay. One thing, like, so all the people that call us homers, like when they give us a 3-star review or something like that, right? Like, this is the podcast for you. All right. We just sat and ripped the team for about like 20 minutes. So let's talk about some good things finally, Brandon. Let's talk about the defense a little bit, because after giving up 14 quick points, they really settled in, and Tampa didn't do squat for the rest of the game.
Out Earl Thomas, out Michael Bennett, out Deshaun Shedd. I mean, those are 3 guys who have been big parts of your defense. Out Mike Morgan, who's
out Brock Coyle.
Out Brock Coyle, yeah. And Morgan sounds like he's set to come back this week. It sounds like Bennett's set to come back. So for those guys to keep it within 2 touchdowns, and especially after giving up those 2 quick touchdowns in the first quarter against a solid Mike Evans receiver. That dude is good. We talked about him.
Yeah.
And you have to cover him when he's in the end zone, especially on the first touchdown. Now, the second touchdown, that was just
coverage.
It was good. It was good coverage. It was an outstanding throw, and it was an
outstanding grab to Sherman's collar by Mike Evans to keep him in trail position. It was really well done.
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting listening to Coach Carroll after the game that they knew that Mike Evans tends to do that kind of stuff, and he's real slick with his technique to make it look like he's not really doing anything. And that's just the sign of a good, and for a young guy, a young receiver to be that good at kind of disguising. Because go back to the Michael Crabtree, the tip in the end zone, that little push off that he gives Sherman as he's going up for the ball.
Yeah.
That's just a real slick wide receiver move the stuff that every team does every good one to get an advantage that the officials aren't going to call.
Yeah. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Like, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at Mike Evans. Like, I mean, that was, golf clap, well done. Like, it really, I can't fault him for it. And I can't even fault the refs for not calling it, because that's tough to see in real time. It really is. I'm not going to cry about the non-call there.
No.
But early on with Mike Evans, I mean, you're talking about him. Really, the Bucs did a good job of understanding their matchups, right out of the gate, because the Seahawks got out coached. Basically, they took Mike Evans and they took him inside the zones that they were running, because for some reason we were playing a ton of zone, and they basically picked on the zone between Thorpe and Stephen Terrell. And basically Mike Evans just worked that little zone that whole entire first drive. And that's the first touchdown was the same thing. It was against those 2 players. They knew their matchups and they exploited it. They went after the weak link. I get it. Like, good job.
Yeah.
But the Seahawks did adjust later on in the game, and you saw that Mike Evans became far less effective. You also saw, too, that they were able to kind of shut down the run game. KJ Wright stuffing Doug Martin on the 3rd and short. I mean, that was a hell of a play.
Yeah, it was.
He had a couple big plays like that. In fact, coming down towards the end of the first half, Bucs driving to kick a field goal, and KJ Wright blows up. I believe it was their tight end towards the sideline, keeping him in bounds.
Yeah, after the Werner interception, the Bucs had the ball back, and they were driving. And if their tight end gets out of bounds, they're able to kick a field goal there. It's a long one. It's another 50-yarder, which their field goal kicker missed the 48-yarder in this game. But it would have given them another opportunity to put points on the board. And KJ Wright took it away by just hammering the dude before he had a chance to get out of bounds by himself.
Exactly. And he was great on catches out of the backfield. I mean, he was just smothering guys. I thought KJ played a whale of a game. Cam Chancellor played a great game. He led the team in tackles. You felt his presence. And not only that, he does pick off Jameis in the end zone. One thing that was surprising to me with Jameis was, I guess it wasn't surprising in the sense that he did make some boneheaded throws, and the Seahawks just couldn't capitalize. I mean, we saw the near interception where Lane and I believe it was Terrell collide. Just one of you play center field and call it, man.
Yeah, that ended up not hurting them because then they shut him down and they actually got the punt back in better field position than I think they would have got the interception.
Yeah, but it just demoralizes Jameis when you pick it off. You know what I mean? Like there's a part of that, but really I felt like they would force Jameis into more mistakes. And really, if I have one criticism of the defense is the pass rush really was more or less non-existent for the game. I mean, we didn't see the housing commissioner in there really at all. The best pressure was Frank Clark, getting jerked down to the ground in the end zone and rolling into Jameis. That was the best bit of, pressure they got on him for the most part.
Yeah, no sacks on Jameis by the defense in this game. And the one thing that really surprised me, Adam, was they barely blitzed him. Looking at the stats, only 4 blitzes on Jameis. And I was just surprised that as little pressure as they were getting on him with their front 4, that they didn't blitz more later in the game.
Yeah, I think their whole philosophy was the idea that they were going to let Jameis throw and make his mistakes and then capitalize on it. And they really did hit on a few plays when the Seahawks blitzed. And maybe that was something that kept them out of doing it more. And I don't know if it was that the Bucs read what the Seahawks were doing, as in Jameis being at the line of scrimmage and understanding that there was a blitz coming in from what side, if they didn't disguise it well. Or if it was something on tape for tendencies or things like that. But there was a couple times there on that second drive where the Seahawks went to blitz and they had the perfect play call to the opposite side of the blitz, whether it was a little screen or whatever. And that really did hurt them. And maybe that did keep them out of it. It was disappointing to see. The opportunities were there. I think the defense played well enough that the offense should have been able to get 17 points and win that game. They had put themselves in position to do it. Just untimely mistakes coupled with the worst performance of the year on the offensive line just spelled doom.
Yeah, frustrating game for the Seahawks, I'm sure. A frustrating game for all fans. An email from Ross from the Pedestrian Podcast. He weighs in this week, says, "Hey, guys, we don't record until Thursday, so allow me to rant now."
Oh, yes. The floor is yours, Ross.
It's 12:08 a.m. The game finished 3 minutes ago, and that was a catfish disaster of a game. The O-line, let's start with that useless bunch. The rotation of awfulness at right tackle has to be the low light of the day. Neither Sowell or Gilliam were able to stop even basic pass rush moves from, let's face it, not premier defensive ends. I'll give Hunt a pass at center, as it was his first start. Fine. He isn't ready, but maybe half of Britt could have provided better protection. Everything wrong with this performance can be laid at their feet, and also the shoulders of RCW should carry some blame. He more than once froze in the face of oncoming pass rush, taking killer sacks. Add to that repeatedly overthrowing or throwing receivers into massive hits. Lockett in the fourth quarter gave his guys very little chance to have any impact on the game. I'm not one to normally moan about Wilson play, as generally he is a god, but even gods have bad days. Let's hope for a bounce back next week against the Panthers team, coming off a good performance against the Raiders. On the plus side, at least the rest of the West lost, and our injured stars should hopefully be returning. Apologies for the rant. Go Hawks from Ross.
Go Hawks, and I'm glad he was able to get that off his chest. That way he could go to bed. I mean, if you have to wait up till 12:08 to watch the end of that stinker, like I feel bad for us. But I mean, he hit so many things on the head and a lot of things we've already talked about. But it wasn't Russell Wilson's best game. I'm curious. I didn't check, Brandon, if Pete Prisco had a lot to say after this game, because for all of the Russell Wilson critics out there, this is one they'll point at.
Yeah, well, and I paid no attention to Prisco this week as I don't think we needed to. And somebody pointed out, too, emailing us saying that not to even bother with Prisco because he's a troll and you don't feed the trolls. But Prisco's a different sort of guy, right? Because he's a troll that has, well, it's hard to even call him a troll because he's at that Skip Bayless level of media attention. Mm-hmm. So it's not like us talking about him gives him any more of a platform than he already has. Oh, yes. He has a much larger platform than we do. Let's not lie. Right. Yeah. There's no doubt about that. No, I mean, I don't know. I do it because I find it more amusing than anything. Yeah. So, yeah. Well, we got a call here from Jeff Lamont. Jeff wants to hear something positive. Let's hear from him.
Hey, Adam and Brandon. This is Jeff Lamont here. what the heck happened on Sunday. I hope you guys can give us something positive to think about. I spent the fourth quarter jogging around my neighborhood in my Wolf Gray Tyler Lockett jersey. You think that would have helped, but it didn't. What to try next? I don't know. Go Hawks.
See, Jeff wants to hear something positive, and I think I came up with something because we have been fairly negative to this point.
Right.
This is setting up perfectly, Adam. I want you to allow me to go a beautiful mind on the schedule right now because there's a pattern developing with the games that they score single digits in.
Well, get out your grease pen and walk to the window, Brandon. Like, start writing this down. Like, tell me how it is.
Well, early on in the season, you had the loss to the Rams. They only score 3 points. Mm-hmm. After that, they get 3 wins, and they score pretty well in those games where they get 3 wins. Then you have the one tie. Where they only scored in single digits, and they go on a 4-win streak.
Okay.
So now you have the 1 loss in single digits. Now we're going to see them go on a 5-win streak, and then they'll have a bye week because they'll get the first round bye, so they won't have to worry about scoring another single digit game because it'll land perfectly in that bye week. And they'll just run it off to the Super Bowl. It's setting up so well.
So basically, you're burying the next loss in the bye week, but you can't lose against the bye week. That's the only flaw in your.
You can't score any points. It's so you don't have to worry about being in the single digits.
Yeah, but are you sure that doesn't carry over to the playoff to the next game?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I needed to hear. As long as you're sure. But, there's one thing you talked about there, the silver linings with the schedule going down the stretch, and you did hit on something that I think is important. Last year, we saw this team get red hot down the stretch and just eviscerate a bunch of low-level teams. And basically, going down the stretch, it was looking like that could happen again. Now, when they did that last year, they get to Minnesota for the playoff game, and they obviously got lucky with a Blair Walsh miss. But part of that game, I think you can really chalk up to the weather for sure. Like that was tough. But then they go to Carolina and they finally face a quality opponent and get bum rushed for a half. And then once they finally adjusted to playing a quality opponent again, because they'd played so many cupcakes leading up to that, they finally get it together and they make that a game. So to me, I think having a loss at this point in the season is a great wake-up call. I think it's something that will keep them sharp, and I think it'll help them going down the stretch here to be more focused when they do finally get into the playoffs. And so, silver linings. This loss, I think, is going to be good for their mentality going forward.
Well, I hope it is good for their mentality, and I hope it's good for Coach Carroll's mentality because he took the blame for the loss and not having the guys ready to play. One thing we do know, though, is that he gets his guys ready to play in prime time, especially at home where they've only lost 1 matchup in prime time. And this week going up against a Panthers team that, like I mentioned, we've lost our last 2 games against, but it's time to bounce back.
I know a lot of people look at the 4-7 Panthers and they say, they're reeling. The back end of their secondary is no good. And all of that's true. And Cam Newton has had an off year, completing way less than 60% of his passes. But the thing of it is that there's still some parts on that defense, even without Luke Kuechly, that have me concerned. I'm worried about this game.
There was one stat against Tampa that I'm a little bit bummed that we didn't bring up because they did bring it up in the TV broadcast about how good Tampa is against other teams, how good their defense is on third down against their opponents. And they're number 3 in the league at stopping teams on third down. And Carolina, they're in the top third. They're at number 11. 38% of the time they shut teams down on third down. Just to give you a reference, Seattle toward the lower end, about 43%.
Yeah,
so and Cleveland at the worst is 47. So it's not that much difference between 25th and 32nd place.
No, it's not. And honestly, the stats that I'm looking at, they've got the Panthers 10th. So right in that 10th, 11th range when it comes to limiting their opponent on third down. And that's a huge deal. Now, the other thing that is interesting about the Panthers is we do talk about their secondary as being atrocious, and it is. But one of the things that you need to take into account is that they are actually second in the league when it comes to stopping the run. Mm-hmm. And they also are 6th in the league when it comes to sacking the quarterback. So when I look at those two things, those two things, that tells me that their defensive line plays well because they're able to stop the run and they get after the quarterback like a top 5 team. Now, we just saw last week that the offensive line can be easily overwhelmed by a decent pass rush. And they've got guys that can still play, whether that's Johnson or Lulele.
Short.
Exactly, man. So these are guys that can really play. And these are the same guys that just ram roughshod over top of the Seahawks offensive line in the playoffs last year after the offensive line had looked good for 3-4 games against Cupcakes. So it's concerning, man. I mean, Justin Britt's going to have to be the difference maker on that offensive line, or we could be seeing a repeat of what we saw in Tampa, only with the Panthers scoring a few more points, because they do score points as well.
They do score points, and they're actually, in terms of NFL red zone scoring percentage, where they score touchdowns, Carolina number 2 in the league. 70% of the time when they get into the red zone, they're scoring touchdowns. And the thing that's scary about that is their percentage goes up when they're on the road. They're up closer to 80%, and they're closer to 60% at home. So they tend to score touchdowns more when they're playing on the road.
That is true. But one thing that you have seen with the Seahawks defense is they are darn good in the red zone. I mean, that really has been an overriding theme. And this defense definitely isn't the defense in the past where you're getting a lot of 3 and outs because they're giving up a lot of third down conversions, but they are very much accomplishing the bend and don't break situation. I mean, just look at Cam Chancellor's pick in the end zone this last game. Yeah. I mean, those are the types of plays that they have been making down there when it does get tight. So that's going to be a huge key to this game. Can we stop them in the red zone?
Well, I have a question for you, Adam, and this is going to be a critical part of the game. Mm-hmm. Can we not spot the Panthers 31 points this time? Because that was too many. 31 points last time in the NFC division game. That was too many points to spot a Panthers team.
Yeah, I'd love to spot them 0 points. Man, I want to beat them so badly after having 2 ugly games against them last year and then having them end our season. Like this is one I'd circled on my calendar at the beginning of the year. It was one that I really wanted to see. And look, I know that the Panthers aren't what a lot of people thought they'd be. I mean, this is honestly what they are this year is exactly how I thought they would be this year. I mean, I talked about it ad nauseum on the pick show that this is how these seasons go for the Super Bowl losing team, especially losing the personnel they lost in their defensive backfield. And I'm not just talking about Josh Norman. They also lost Peanut Tillman to retirement, and they didn't replace him with anybody. So it's been a struggle. They are 31st in the league when it comes to stopping the passing game. So there is a vulnerability there. But that, again, is a lot like that Tampa defense we just faced, where they are very vulnerable in the back end, yet if you don't give Russell any time, he's not going to have a chance.
It's going to be the difference of whether or not we see the offensive line against the Philadelphia Eagles, because, again, another similar team, strong up front, not so strong on the back end. Can they hold up against the defensive line like they did against Philly, or are they going to hold up like they did against the Bucs? And with them being back home, I tend to think it's going to be more like Philly than it was going on the road and taking on a Bucs team that was, like I mentioned, they were in desperation mode. But that's one of the things about the teams and when you look at strength of schedule, and because you heard going into these last 6 games that the Seahawks, they have the easiest strength of schedule of all the remaining teams. But the thing is about a lot of these teams, they're still in it and they're desperate. The Panthers, they're not going to be thinking that they're completely out of it. The Packers up next. Aaron Rodgers has been a different guy the last few games compared to earlier on in the season. I would have much rather taken on the Packers earlier this season, much like the Panthers. And then you have the Rams, which, they play the Seahawks good anytime, and the Cardinals and Niners, which are division matchups. So it's as easy as the schedule looked going into the last 6 games. I don't think any of these are going to be easy games, except maybe the Niners game.
So I couldn't agree with you more. And this is why I rail against strength of schedule guy. You know what I'm talking about. At the beginning of every year, so-and-so has the second hardest. You don't know crap. You don't know how some of these teams are going to shake out. There's going to be some surprises. You don't know the circumstances of which they go into a game. Like, for example, how many of you could have predicted that the Seahawks would be down all of the players that they were down going into the Tampa game? You can't predict that. and you can't predict the effect that that's going to have. And so when people come at you with strength of schedule nonsense, it does. It absolutely frustrates me. And this game is more dangerous than the strength of schedule looks. It really is. This is a team that is a hardened playoff team. It's somebody that we've played multiple times. They are fighting for their playoff lives at this point. Now, one thing that I wonder about is I don't think Cam Newton is a very mentally strong individual. I think he's a guy that kind of wilts when it gets to adverse times. Mm-hmm. And with them being where they are at this point in the season, I don't know that he has the mental fortitude to lead them to a win in Seattle with their season hanging in the balance like this. I mean, that team looks like they're so disheartened by the way that their season's gone. They don't play with a lot of heart at this point. I mean, maybe that'll change, like you said, because they are in desperation mode to a degree, but I don't know if you are in desperation mode at this point, in the sense that I kind of feel like they're already out of it.
It's really close. I mean, this game, beating the Panthers, would put the nail in the coffin of the Panthers. And that's one of the cool things about this game that I like. I really want to see that for the Seahawks, to go in and just dominate them and put them away. And then that way that Panthers season is finished, just like they finished our season last year. That would make me happy. But you brought up Cam Newton, and as far as being under pressure and kind of maybe folding a little bit when things get hard. And that's why it's important for Michael Bennett to come back in this game and really have that pass rush. Ron Rivera talked earlier this week, talked about their offensive line being a catastrophe. It's been a struggle for the Carolina Panthers offense on their offensive line. And defensively, we brought up some of the stats that are a little bit scary, but they're a different team at home versus on the road. And you can see that clearly in the number of yards they put up, the third down conversions. We mentioned it being toward the top of the NFL, but they're closer to 50% when they go on the road. And as far as opponent yards per game, it's a huge difference. They're only giving up 300 yards to their opponents at home, and it's over 400 when they go on the road. And it's close to last in the league.
Wow, I didn't realize that split for them, home and road. And
it's a drastic split. They're sandwiched between the Cleveland Browns and San Francisco when they go on the road, with San Francisco giving up the most yards when they go on the road.
Well, holy smokes. I would love to see an offensive performance much like we saw against the Eagles, in the sense that the offense is able to move the ball up and down the field with some efficiency. You get some of those big gap plays that Russell Wilson talks so much about. And really, one of the things that's interesting to me about this game is that we really do get to see if the Tampa game was an aberration or if this really is an Achilles heel for the team. Because we did see the offensive line play well in the last few games, and then obviously Tampa Bay was a clunker, and they should have been a more of a cupcake type of opponent. Well, we come up here against the Panthers, coming into our house with a fairly good defensive line, much like the Eagles. Let's see if they can put another game together. And let's see if it's going to be Gilliam or Sal out there at right tackle, because I'm not sure.
I was just going to say, how much tinkering are they going to do with the offensive line here on out? Are we going to start seeing more Reese Odiombo, whether it's at one of the tackle positions? Are we going to continue to see Fant? Are we going to see Sal? Which combination are they going to go with in this game? Because we're getting to the point of the season, and yes, it's nice to have a comfortable lead within the division that maybe you can try some different things and you don't have to worry about losing that first home playoff game. Detroit has a very tough schedule going forward. You can probably count on them to lose a game or two, but the Falcons, it's tough to know with them how they're going to perform going down the stretch. If you can count on them to lose one or two more games down the stretch to where you can still stay in that lead for the numbers 2 seed and have a bye week and get your game at home for the divisional round.
Yeah, it's become critically important this stretch here late. And I think we all understand the magnitude of the Seahawks of them getting home playoff games and what that means for this team. I mean, Russell Wilson is basically invincible at home. This team is more or less invincible at home. Mm-hmm. I want to go to a playoff game in the clink, Brandon. I want to go, and I want to skip a weekend. I want a weekend off of worrying about Seahawks football in between the regular season and the postseason. I'd like to see guys have that extra time to get healthy. Maybe CJ Prosise comes back at that point. Mm-hmm. This bye week could be immensely critical. Now, we do get a bunch of guys back for this game, and I think that is something that is so encouraging because Mike Bennett is gigantic. Earl Thomas is gigantic. And it turns out Deshaun Shedd is a pretty big piece to this as well. I think you start to get that group together. I think they could make life a little miserable for Cam Newton. As long as they can figure out a way to cover Greg Olsen, because good Lord, man. I wake up, I still have nightmares of that Scandinavian fella just running right through the middle of the Seattle defense and torching us at the end of the game.
Yeah. Greg Olsen, man, that dude, it's hard to dislike the guy, but I do dislike him when it comes to him playing the Seahawks defense. Yeah. And they have two big-bodied wide receivers. There's Greg Olsen, and then there's Kelvin Benjamin, too, who's having a pretty good year. He and Greg Olsen are both kind of up there as the leading receivers for the Panthers.
Yeah, I mean, those guys are legitimate weapons. I mean, and Benjamin, man, he is a beast. Now, Richard Sherman is a guy that can take care of your number one like that. So I don't worry too much. Ted Ginn came back to earth this year and is the receiver we all knew he was. I don't know what happened last year to give him the type of season that he had. But those are basically the two big weapons. Now, Jonathan Stewart is a little longer in the tooth. I mean, he's not quite the force that he has been in years past, but they're still a middling team when it comes to running the ball. I mean, they're right around mid-pack, about 13th in the league. So I think what it boils down to offensively for the Panthers is just how much is Cam Newton still invested in this season? That really is what it is to me. We could talk X's and O's all day, but I feel like that's kind of the bigger part of this team.
You saw it last year. I mean, Cam Newton, when he was having fun, when he was winning and everything was going great, there was no criticism. Things were perfect in Cam Newton's world. But this year, he's had to deal with a little bit more, whether it's the hits that they're putting on him and having to go to Goodell and talk about the refs and getting roughed up too much. I mean, it's a real issue for him, but you can see how guys handle it differently.
Yeah, they really do. And he's one of those guys that doesn't handle it well. So I think having Mike Bennett back for this game will be gigantic in that sense. Just like you pointed out earlier, Brandan, that offensive line is a bit of a mess, and especially with Khalil gone, if you can get some pressure on him, he'll fold. He'll absolutely fold.
Well, we will see this weekend, and being in prime time, I love these prime time games, especially in Seattle. And we have an email coming up, too, asking about prime time, and I want to get into that in the second half of the show.
Sounds like a great plan, man. Well, I know we got a great interview coming up here with the Montana Seahawkers chapter with their founders, Roger and Larry, and they've got some great things that you guys can participate in to help out some charities, so stay tuned for that.
But first, let's hear what Clinton Bonner has to say coming up in this week's 3 In, 3 Out.
UGLY. Why were we so dreadful versus the Pewter Pirates of Tampa Bay? On this week's 3 In, 3 Out, we'll dive directly into these headwinds as we seek some comfort of a wolf gray lining. Were we cursed? Was our QB trigger happy? And how in the world was famous Jameis able to stay so clean? Rest assured that it's all not lost, and we'll find a few gold coins to dig up in this week's 3 In, 3 Out, written exclusively for the Seahawkers podcast.
And you can see all of Clinton Bonner's 3 In, 3 Out posts at Seahawkerspodcast.com/3i30. It's one of those things that in a week of a loss, I look to that to really pick me up. So thanks to Clinton for continuing to put those out.
It's harder in losses, man, because it's better to win than it is to lose. It really is.
But there's always some little nuggets that Clinton finds to kind of pick you up a little bit, with the ins. We all know what the outs are going to be, but you wonder in weeks like this, what is he going to find that's in?
Well, the problem with the outs is that there's 3 of them, right? But there's 5 offensive linemen, so I don't know how that's going to work out for him.
Yeah, you might have to double up or triple up for sure.
Yeah.
This week on our Seahawker Spotlight, we welcome on Roger Peterson and Larry Pelkey of the Montana Seahawkers. Roger, why don't you tell us a little bit about, because the Montana chapter, it's one of the newest Seahawkers chapters. Tell us a little bit about what you guys have going on here in Montana.
It is. Montana chapter, I think, is long overdue, given our proximity to Seattle. And I know, Brandan, you and I have kicked this idea around for a couple of years in different venues. And last year during the playoffs, something just inspired me and lit a fire under me. And I think maybe it was Blair Walsh missed field goal. I'm not sure, but so we started collecting some names of folks to see what kind of interest there might be, and we submitted those to the Seahawkers Central Council last March, and they gave us the green light to proceed with forming a chapter here in Montana. And since then, we've been growing fast and gaining members across we are a statewide chapter, and right now we're already sitting at about 195 members across the entire state.
That is outstanding. And that's, Adam and I are inaugural members. So I feel like it's important to mention that.
Oh, for sure, Brandan. And not only that, but 195 members, that's like 42% of the Montana population right there. So It's impressive.
Well, you guys have a really cool thing going on right now. You guys are doing a raffle for some autographed Seahawks memorabilia that you're raising money for charity. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys are raffling off and what the money is going toward?
Yeah, we've been involved with a number of charity efforts here. We know that's a really important part of the Seahawkers organization. We are engaged in the Toys for Tots drive right now, and we did collect about 500 pounds of food for the Montana Food Bank Network. But getting back to the raffle, when we were there was a group of us. Brandan, you were with us, that got to go out for the 49ers game in late September. And while we were out there, through a couple of our members, Rob and Melissa, they were able to, it was a day that Jim Zorn and Steve Largent were there signing autographs, and they persevered, stood in line, and obtained a really awesome Seahawk autograph ball that actually says Zorn to Largent. It's the old combination from the 80s, the classic Seahawk combination. And so we have that ball. The other one, Mr. Paul Johns, a wide receiver from the teams in the early 80s. And Paul was a member of that 1983 playoff team, the first Seahawks playoff team. And he had dinner with us and signed a ball for us there. And so we've entered into some partnerships with a couple of great Montana charities. We've reached out to the Ronald McDonald House here in western Montana, and our vice president, Jake Penwell, over in Billings, is in the process of reaching out to the Ronald McDonald House in the Billings area here. And then I know Larry and I believe Sandy Cummins, who's also on our board, reached out to Shodair Children's Hospital in Helena, and they provided us with a list of items that they also need. So that is our major fundraiser for the year. Our goal is to raise at least $1,000 to help out the folks at Ronald McDonald and Shodair. I know children's charities are important to the Seahawks in general, and they're also important to us here in Montana. And so yes, that's a major effort we're undertaking right now. And again, you can get more information by coming out to one of our gatherings or via our chapter's website.
So, Larry, why don't you tell us where the Montana chapters meet? Because obviously we are so spread out across Montana. We have to have a lot of different locations for everybody to meet up at.
That's correct. And right now we're meeting in 3 cities, and they're Billings, Missoula, and Kalispell. In Billings, they're meeting at the Red Door. And Missoula, we're still trying to find our forever home. And so we've done 3 different locations in Missoula. Last night we were at the Native Wings and Grill in Missoula. We'll be moving to the Broadway for our next game, and we have a couple at Hooters in Missoula. All the playoff games in Missoula will be at Hooters this year, and we're just trying to find our home there. In Kalispell, we're currently meeting at the Elks Club in Kalispell, and one of the biggest things for us is wherever we're at, we want it to be family orientated, where Ma and Pa and all the little kiddos can come out and enjoy the Seahawks and just have a good time.
So what's the best way? What's the quickest way for people to get information about the raffle and to get their tickets? Go
onto our website. We have a philanthropy section on there, and that we have a flyer on there that talks about the raffle that's going on right now, and there's a couple of photographs of the football, so people can actually see what they're putting in for. Again, probably the best way is for folks to actually come down and watch a game with us in one of the cities, and get the tickets that way.
Yeah, because people from California, if they want to get in on the Zorn to Largent ball, they have to mail a check.
Yeah, they'll have to mail a check to us. There's a PO box here in Lolo where I live, and that's listed on our website. So that's another way folks from out of state, if they do want to get in on winning that pretty cool autograph ball. For folks who do want to be able to get a hold of us, it's www.montanaseahawkers.org. Again, montanaseahawkers.org. And that site was put together by one of our members, and I think he's a fan of the podcast, a gentleman by the name of Jared Perkins with Outbound Digital here out of Montana.
Well, Roger, Larry, really wanted to thank you for coming on and supporting the Seahawks here in Montana.
Thank you for having us again, and come join us whenever you get a chance. It's great to see everybody come out and help support the Seahawks and the Boosters Club.
Well, thanks, Roger and Larry. Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
All right, go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
A big thanks to Roger and Larry for coming on. As we mentioned, Adam and I were down there. We wanted to bring you some of the efforts that the Montana Seahawkers were working on. And if you want to join either the Montana Seahawkers or any of the Seahawkers chapters, go to Seahawkers.org. There's even a new logo, which came out this week. That's really cool that I know one of the guys in the UK Seahawkers came up with. Looking real good.
Yeah, very sharp. Very impressed by that. Logo design is hard, it turns out, and that's a good one.
There are challenges that come with it for sure. Adam, at the top of the show, you mentioned the fact that this was the second toughest game to watch. I'm assuming that the first is the loss to the Browns with Whitehurst at the helm. Is that the gold standard of horrible games, or was this worse?
No, that's not the gold standard. The gold standard is Super Bowl 49.
No. Okay.
That was the hardest game to watch ever. And forever will be.
Well, only for the last, little bit. They were in that game. They were looking to take the lead at the end.
I get all that, but the ending is what makes that the hardest game ever to watch.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's because part of it is the fact that you had the ups leading up to the end of that. You thought we were, and then it wasn't.
But this was all down. This Tampa game was all down. And so was that game against the Browns back with Whitehurst. That was down the whole way.
That was ugly. Well, I want to share one quick thing that I had written on the Ring of Honor page. The other day, I was watching, they were NFL Films Top 10, right? Mm-hmm. And there's NFL Top 10 backup quarterbacks, right? And it's on YouTube, and I've got it on the TV. And I get to the end, and I go and I take a leak. And as I come back, the next video pops up in autoplay, and they're talking about worst play calls ever. And of course, the play that shall not be named pops up on the screen, just randomly out of nowhere, just to gut punch it, Yeah. And the fact that just popped up so randomly, right there, because you can't get away from it. I actually chuckled for the first time. It made me laugh. I was like, of course, instead of being real sad about it, I think I'm getting over it is what I'm saying.
The healing process is beginning. You have to force yourself to watch that play enough times, knowing it's going to happen. That play is going to be shown just for the rest of the time. Much like you have the 49ers going up for the catch in the end zone against the Cowboys,
Clark,
right? Yeah, Dwight Clark.
Yeah, the catch, man.
Yeah, the catch. It's just one of those plays that you're always going to see.
Yeah, and it's just going to pop up and it's going to hit you out of nowhere and now and then. And so anyways, that was, to me, still the most painful game. But, Whitehurst and 6-3, that was tough, too, because didn't Marshawn not play because of back spasms?
Yeah, Leon Washington was the running back for that one.
Good Lord. Well, at least we scored 5 against Tampa.
Right, that's 2 more.
That's 2 more than 3.
And there was the Rams game earlier this season where we were on the road and only scored 3 points to the Rams. But it's the Rams, so
exactly. I kind of expect that now.
Right, you block it out.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's talk about winners. Pick 'em league winners.
Okay.
Didn't mention them last week, but week 11 winners in the Patron League. You had Tyler Lockett's Hairline and Kick Life in the Rawls.
Nice. How many points did they get this week?
I don't know what they had last week. They didn't miss too many. Week. Yeah. But I know that, and then in the Seahawkers podcast league, both those, I think it was around 180 because a lot of people finished on top. 2 above, neutral zone infraction, Wilson Seahawks and Roden Kelly Sr., along with Tyler Lockett's hairline and Kick Life and the Rawls.
Wow.
Yeah.
Gosh, a bunch of show offs. I had a $150 last week, and I felt good about it until I started seeing everybody else's scores. Like, well, geez Louise.
Yeah.
This is ridiculous.
I know. I was feeling good, too, because at least I beat you with 160, but there are a lot of people with 180.
Yeah.
And there was one guy with 190, almost had a perfect slate. Well, it was, every game was picked correctly because the Seahawks were selected, but that was the only loss for defend every blade of grass. Kofi coming through. Only loss was the Seahawks game.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of brutal in the sense, like, if he would have picked it the other way, he'd have got a -40.
Right.
But by picking it the way that he should, he got a -40.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, because you get, I think, 40 or 50 points for the actual win.
Yeah, for the full slate of picking each and every game. So I don't know. That's a tough break for Kofi.
I feel like we need to do something special. I know we've been giving prizes. Kofi deserves either the Seahawks trousers or a Russell Wilson Kostakos Brothers poster. But I don't know if we should do something even more for him because it doesn't seem enough to have that great of a week.
I don't know. I mean, pants are cool.
They are
even
cool.
when they're not underwear. Yeah.
Well, congrats to Kofi, and also congrats to Easley Street hanging on to the top spot, followed by Lieutenant Nacho Cheese. Biggity Cool and Super Tecmo Rawls are within striking distance. Defend Every Blade of Grass also won the Seahawkers Podcast League. So not only the Patron League, but when you only miss one game, you're going to dominate everybody.
Yeah, you're having a good week. So we'll do something for Kofi. We'll have to figure that out. Did we ever decide what we were doing with the Chris and Michael card? Did we decide that was going to, was that Brandon?
It was Aaron.
Not Brandon. Aaron. Yeah. Okay.
We didn't have any other submissions, so I think Aaron gets it.
All right. Perfect. All right. Very good.
And speaking of members of the flock like Aaron, we got some new members this week.
Awesome.
Ariana Young is into the Ring of Honor, as well as Angela Earl. Welcome to the flock to the both of you.
It's nice to have a couple people come and class up to join.
I know.
You know? Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Well, Devin's coming in there too because he upped his pledge from 3 to 6, so he'll be in the Ring of Honor as well.
Oh, wonderful. That's awesome, man.
And a $3 pledge from Rafi Christofferson. So welcome to the flock to Rafi.
Oh, absolutely, guys. Well, thank you so much. Again, these are just a way that we get this show out to you guys. I mean, it covers all of our costs and everything. And really, honestly, how we do it and the way we do it, it wouldn't be possible without you guys. So a million thanks.
Well, and it's really going to help this month, too, because we're already $200 in on the Tornado Alley Seahawkers fundraiser to build homes for Haiti. With the 10 sacks from Cliff Averill. And of course, we want Cliff to get more sacks. This definitely helps with those efforts, too. You know, we also gave to the Montana Chapters Toys for Tots effort and their canned food drive. So it helps us help all the other club efforts out as we do the show.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're not as greedy as we sound. Like we do give some of it away.
Also wanted to thank one of our listeners for going to Seahawkerspodcast.com/support. You know, Michael, driving aircraft carriers in Virginia Beach. He says, just a heads up, I ordered my next jersey through your Fanatics link. Hopefully it worked properly for you to get your kickback. I decided on a Mad Dougie B jersey. It was tough choosing just one. So many great players on our team. So, yeah, thanks to Michael.
Dougie Fresh is a great choice. Yeah, Dougie Fresh, a great choice. And thanks a lot, Michael. That does help. And if you're buying something anyway, hook a brother up. You know? Right.
Go to Seahawkerspodcast.com/support. And if you get your jersey there too, we want to know what you're getting because it's cool to know the choices you make and why you make them, especially when it comes to jersey numbers.
Yeah, because apparently, this is something, since I'm not a jersey buyer, I didn't realize how much angst went into buying jerseys.
Well, you did buy a jersey this last week.
Well, yeah, but not for me. But there was a lot of angst that went into that too.
It's true.
Freaking Gurley jersey. That was something about this week with the Bucs game that was super frustrating. Thomas Rawls starts, and I still lose ground to Gurley, even though Gurley had like 55 yards rushing.
Yeah.
Thanks, Thomas.
Yeah. It's for,
or actually maybe Bevel.
Fire Bevel.
Yeah. Because I almost opened this week with that, Fire Bevel, because, I made the joke last week, the offense looking good, Fire Bevel. Well, here's the other extreme. The offense looks bad, Fire Bevel. Yeah. We're not firing Bevel one way or the other. That's what I'm getting at.
And if you want to get in the flock, that's also available on the support page, getintheflock.com, where you can get all of our bonus shows through Patreon. And we put those out each week.
You bet. And Brandon's like super close to having this live thing figured out.
I think that's right.
Like 90% of it ready to rock. So I think we're going to start doing that once a month coming up.
We'll be doing that. So everyone in the $12 level and above will get the notifications when we are about to go live for that show. And it'll tell you all about where to listen. And we'll have a little chat box on there so you can chat with others during the show. Be a good time.
Yeah, it'll be awesome.
All right, let's get into some email, Adam.
Beautiful.
One from Frederick Boras in Sweden. It says, hi. Once again, I would like to give a huge thank you for all the time and effort you put into this. I will be leaving Sweden this Friday to travel to Seattle and attend the Panthers game.
Oh, all right.
This will be the second year in a row we travel to a home game, roughly 4,700 miles, and it's starting to become my favorite tradition. Since I'm in Sweden, I haven't really been able to see what differentiates a primetime game versus a regular one. Is there anything specific you shouldn't miss outside or inside the stadium, or is it, in that sense, a normal game with a late kickoff? Keep up the great work, and go Hawks.
Oh, go Hawks, man. Well, safe travels all the way from Sweden. I guess the one biggest difference is people are a little more liquored up. They've got the whole day.
They have the whole day. But yeah. One of the interesting questions, especially for overseas, you say, well, why is a primetime game all that different versus a regular game? And a big reason for that is it's just that everybody's watching at that primetime slot, right? Because there's not other games to distract you. In the evening game, there's only one game that's watching. So the players know that not only is the entire country watching, but players of other teams are probably watching too. So it puts just a little bit more pressure on the game to play well, because you want to show off for the rest of the league.
Oh, you bet. I mean, being in the spotlight is a big thing for these guys. You don't become a professional athlete if you don't like a little bit of the attention. I mean, for the most part. I mean, there's a few reclusive guys. I mean, Marshawn definitely was kind of wired that way. But for the most part, these guys, they want to show out in front of their peers, in front of the nation. It's a bigger deal. Plus, it's under the lights.
Yeah.
And that...
it gives it a different atmosphere, for sure.
Yeah, it does. It just feels a little different. And, I mean, it's one of the things that makes football special. I enjoy the whole idea of primetime games. The only games at night that I tend to dislike are the Thursday night games. And it sounds like we may get rid of those.
Oh.
Let's hope.
Oh, interesting. Well, we have the one coming up against the Rams. We aren't going to get rid of that one before it happens.
No, I'm talking going forward in the future, man. It sounds like the league's really thinking about getting rid of it.
Oh, okay. Well, as long as they keep the Thanksgiving ones, those are the Thursday games that are important.
Right. That's the one time a year we need Thursday games. Exactly.
Email here from Brett in Sydney says, Brandan and Adam, with Justin Britt down, the O-line got abused today, starting from the very first Seahawks play. No passing or rushing game can hope to do anything of significance if this happens in a game. Apart from Russell Wilson rushing, this game would have been even more embarrassing. Nothing can be done this season about the O-line, but moving forward, where do you guys think the money comes from to upgrade this patchwork O-line before Russell Wilson ends up in a hospital or worse?
It's a good question. It's not coming from anywhere. I mean, I read an article today where they're in negotiations with Mike Bennett to re-up his deal and redo that. And I can't imagine that they're not doing the same with Cam Chancellor right now. I'd be surprised if they're not. And they've shown a commitment to not spend any money. So there's only one way then to upgrade that offensive line. You're going to need to see the Seahawks make a commitment, much like the Cowboys did, by drafting a bunch of first-round offensive linemen over a number of years. And that's what it's going to take, because those are the guys you'll be able to have that are quality guys on the cheap. That's the only way I see them doing.
Yeah, it's only going to come through the draft. And you saw it start this year with Ifedi. Unfortunately, Justin Britt looks like he's going to be a good center for us. Now it's going to be time to...
Now, do you pay him, though? Like, we'll see.
We'll see. You have 2 years to figure it out. But that does give you a little bit of time. Maybe Joey Hunt does become a starting caliber center as well by the time you have to make that decision. You don't know.
He's too small.
You think that.
I know that. I saw him out there.
Russell Wilson's too small. Stop it.
Yeah, he plays quarterback. He doesn't go out there and smash into other 300-pound linemen on like every play, right in the middle. Like this is a part. Size matters. Like it does.
And the other thing is too, centers generally can be found in the second and third rounds, whereas to get a good offensive tackle, you've got to go in the first round and go out and get them then. The big thing is going to be if the Seahawks can change their talent evaluation process to get guys on that offensive line, because as we've seen in the past, historically, talent evaluation wise, as far as O-line goes, has not been good.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Carpenter and Moffitt, both high draft picks. But, I mean, in fairness, I guess Carpenter did turn into a player.
Yeah, he's still in the league.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Fetty hasn't had a great rookie season to date. And that's something that's a little alarming. I mean, there's your first round draft pick that's been spent on the O-line in forever.
Yeah, since Carpenter.
Yeah. So let's hope they do kind of get it together a little bit. But yeah, there's going to be no rescue this year, and you're not going to see a big free agent signing or a big trade either. I don't think, unless they do something shocking like a Jimmy Graham type of trade, for an offensive lineman that you didn't think was possible.
Well, that goes right into our next question from Harvey Brown on Facebook. Says, hey guys, I have a question for you. So I know it's way early to be looking into this kind of stuff, but for the 2017 free agency period, some key players we may lose are Hauschka, Shed, and Luke Wilson. You and I talked about this on one of our bonus shows a little bit a couple weeks ago. Yeah. Says, not sure who all we are going to re-sign or how much cap there will be, but have you thought about the possibility of the Seahawks signing Le'Veon Bell? Stay with me here. So the O-line is still trash, but Le'Veon is such a playmaker and is such a Pete Carroll player. He is patient at the line of attack. He can block, and he's good out of the backfield. I'm a big fan of Rawls and CJ Prosise, but let's be honest, they aren't a Le'Veon Bell level player. If he doesn't resign with the Steelers and they don't franchise tag him, what do you think the chances are that they take a look at him?
0. Basically because Le'Veon Bell is good to miss 4 games at the start of every year because he can't stop token. Like, I mean, it's pretty much it.
And it's going to go up. It could go up to 10 games. Didn't we see the
right? It's a player I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole for that very reason, Brandon. Yeah. And not that makes him a bad dude. Like, for example, Ricky Williams was that kind of player, right? Yeah. Like a transcendent talent, like to smoke weed, and he has his reasons for it. And honestly, I'm not even against him. Like, I don't think Ricky Williams is a bad dude. I don't think Le'Veon Bell's a bad dude. But point of fact is that the league frowns upon them. Mm-hmm. And it's just going to be a problem. And it makes employment a problem. He's a guy that can't stay healthy. I don't know that he fits the scheme. He's not a power back. Like, he's not going to go out there and, thump somebody on the sideline and get the team fired up. I take Thomas Rawls every day of the week over Bell, especially when you factor in salary.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to be able to afford him.
No, factoring salary.
Yeah, I think it's 0.
Yeah.
I think it's 0.
And I think we've seen where this team is historically, where they're going to spend their money on defense. And yeah. I'd like having a historically good defense. Exactly. It's pretty cool.
And it is pretty cool. And it keeps you in every single game. It's why the Seahawks haven't lost a game by more than 10 points since, Woodrow Wilson was in office. I mean, it's been forever. So it's one of those things that it's the way they choose to play, and it makes sense because it keeps you competitive year in and year out.
Good old WW. That was a good president.
Yeah.
I actually don't think he was, but
no, he wasn't. He had some problems, with the whole making the Federal Reserve come back to life and things like that.
Well, that's enough of a history lesson. But here's one from Ariana Young. She says, now I'm getting blamed for the Seahawks loss. It's my fault. Or is this my fault? Is my Pac-12 family betrayal bleeding over? And she sent a screenshot of her dad essentially saying that because of her, I think she's a USC fan. I was kind of honking SC during the Huskies game this weekend, and her dad accused her of throwing off the Hakra based off of the
okay, by the switching of her fandom to a Pac-12 rival from the Huskies.
Well, I think she went to school at SC, so that I don't see how that can. I mean, you're a fan of the school that you go to.
Yeah, I think mostly you are. Yeah.
But
so that's tough.
But if you do grow up in Washington, it does kind of throw off that balance a little bit. But
well, here's the thing: she rebalanced it out by becoming a member of the flock.
Right.
So really, it all balanced out. No, Ariana, not your fault. At least not this week. Okay, I might find another week to blame you, but not this week. You're off the hook.
Well, now that she is a member of the flock, yeah, that you can't criticize because and so I would say I'm going to give a do better to Ariana's dad.
Yeah, I think he deserves it. You bet. Yeah, do better, dude. Don't shame your poor daughter who's just, working through her fandom the best she can.
Yeah. Just because she went to a different school than the area where she grew up.
And plus, it's college football, and we all know college football doesn't matter.
Right. As you just, throw a wrench at every other Huskies fan that's listening right now.
Well, any other college football fan. I'm sorry you watch boring ball. You got better things to do on a Saturday, so you can get stuff done and have fun maybe outside. And then you have Sunday for real football with guys that can actually play.
It's not boring when you're emotionally involved with a team. That's what makes college...
Well, I'm emotionally involved with those games. It's called boredom. That's the emotion that I feel.
Well, just because you went to an FCS school instead of FBS.
That has nothing to do with it, man. I cannot sit down and watch college football. Dude, it is simplistic. The dudes are slow. The dudes are small. The coaching is ridiculous. I mean, it's subpar football on so many levels. It is impossible for me to watch.
It's fun. Just as I had fun watching high school football, I can have fun watching college football.
Hey, I can have fun watching high school football because I know the kids. You know what I mean? That's fine. I have a personal investment. And then not only that, but the dudes turn over in college football so fast. And I understand free agency happens in the NFL, but you still have some mainstays. Like Russell Wilson's going to be your quarterback for 10 years. You get a good quarterback, and he gets to play a season once he's finally a junior, and then he declares early and he's gone? Screw that nonsense, man. You're just rooting for laundry. Stop it.
That's okay.
It's boring football.
That's what you root for in college.
Gross.
And maybe your coach.
I didn't know it. I guess.
Unless you're Oregon, who just lost their coach.
But he's a cheater because they all have to be cheaters to somehow compete in that landscape.
Well, what do you say we get on to some do better and better at life?
Well, I thought I just did it, basically.
It's your do betters for college football this week, huh?
But okay, no, my do better this week, Brandon, is for the Los Angeles Rams because they're a catfish franchise. They are. And here's how you know. When you have maybe one of the top 3 running backs of all time as one of your alumni, and now he is banned from being on the sidelines for your games because your coach has a thicker mustache than he has skin. It's ridiculous. I'm talking none other than Eric Dickerson, the man that made rec goggles cool, broke basically the NFL single season rushing record his rookie year. It was amazing. The guy was one of the best running backs of all time. And basically, once you finally come back to town, he wants to be a part of the organization. And yet, when he's asked about the team and says, yeah, our quarterback kind of stinks and the offense stinks. He's honest about it. You have a hissy fit. Call the man at home. Jeff Fisher calls Eric Dickerson, and they didn't have a good conversation. Basically, Jeff Fisher said he wasn't welcome on the sidelines. Now it's all refuted, right? He's backtracked on all that crap. But Eric Dickerson now says as long as Jeff Fisher's the coach, because of the disrespect, he will no longer attend Rams games as long as Jeff Fisher is the coach. And one of Fisher's points was you are critical of the team while asking for a handout. And you know what he asked for, Eric Dickerson? He asked for a couple sideline passes for his family to go and hang out at the game.
Yeah.
How petty is that nonsense? That costs the team nothing. Just space on the sideline.
Yeah.
He just wants to go and support the team. Then he says a couple things about the team that thin-skinned Fisher can't handle, and he's banned. Jeff Fisher, LA Rams, do better.
Well, you saw that Fisher's boss had to come out and say that that Dickerson was definitely welcome, but I think it was too late because Yeah.
Jeff Fisher already burned that bridge.
Right. Yeah. Well, I don't think Dickerson's going to have to be holding a ban all that long.
No, I have a feeling that next season we'll see a little Eric Dickerson roaming the sidelines,
because
and maybe a little less mustache.
If he's banned for Fisher's tenure, I think that's about to be over.
Yeah.
Well, we're staying in Southern California, Adam, for our do betters this week, because mine is for Chargers fans. And listen, I'm very sympathetic to any fan base that has the potential to lose their team. I am. But I have some real serious issues with Charger fans and their efforts to keep the team in San Diego right now. Okay. I looked at their organization, Save Our Bolts. That's the name of their organization to keep the team in San Diego.
Well, it sounds better than Save Our Nuts. So give them credit.
And it's a fun acronym because it's SOB.
Oh, okay. That's fun too.
But, we all know that losing a team and having to go to another town really stinks. We know it as Sonics fans in Seattle, but you don't want to have to give people a reason not to support you. And Save Our Bolts sounds like you weren't even trying to come up with a proper name. Seattle had
you don't think so?
Seattle had Save Our Seahawks. It was SOS. It works as a name. It worked. It ended up working to help keep the team in Seattle. Now,
so basically, they failed the acronym game.
They failed the acronym game. They failed the name game. Save Our Bolts. I don't like it. It took me 30 more seconds to come up with a better name. Save Our Superchargers. You get the SOS, and it's save. That's more alliterative. It would have been a lot of syllables. It would have been the obvious choice to me. Save Our Superchargers.
Yeah, I kind of like Save Our Bolts.
I like Save Our Nuts, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I mean, that's fun too. But it has more of a ring to me than Save Our Superchargers. That's a lot of S's, and that gets hard.
That's hard for you. To me, it's the obvious choice. It only took me 30 more seconds to come up with that than Save Our Bolts. It's not that hard. Do better.
Kind of like Save Our Bolts. I think you guys are doing okay, San Diego. Don't listen to him. Keep it classy.
Go catfish yourself, San Diego.
All right. What do you say we get on to who's better at life than Senor Skip Bayless?
Let's do it.
I don't know why he's a senor today, but he just is.
He'll be Duke Skip Bayless.
He could just be Duke Skip forever. Like that sounds about right.
Well, having Skip and Duke in the
That's what I'm saying. I like it. It goes together. All right, man. My better at life this week is for a man that nobody is familiar with at all in this country. His name is Jim Ford. And the reason you've never heard of Jim Ford is because he's a repo man. That's right. He goes and you don't make the payments on your stuff. He comes and sneaks in the middle of the night and tows it off and takes it back for the bank. And you would think that I wouldn't like guys like that. And ordinarily, you're right. But Jim Ford, here the last, right around Thanksgiving here, he had to go and repossess a 1998 Buick from an older couple named Stanford and Patty Kipping. They're in their late 70s, early 80s. And basically, they had gotten to the point to where they had to decide whether they were going to pay for their increased cost of their prescription medications or make the payment on their 1998 Buick. And that seems like a no-brainer. So Mr. Ford goes and repos the car, and he says, quote, "When I got home that night, I said to myself, they're a really nice elderly couple. I got to do something. I can't just take their car." And so he did something. First off, he tried to negotiate with the bank to get the car back for the couple. The bank was having none of it. They were uncooperative. Surprise, surprise. Mm-hmm. The bank didn't care about little guys. So he started a GoFundMe, and in one night raised $3,500.
Wow.
So at that, he paid the $2,500 that was owed to the bank and pays off the car. And then he sticks $1,000 cash in an envelope. And then one of his coworkers and him fixed the headlights on the car, changed the antifreeze out, changed the oil, and brought it back and gave it to the couple. And this poor couple, they said they had no idea what they were going to do without the car. To just get around and do their basic groceries and, living. And I think for that kind of compassion during the holiday season from a guy from a profession that generally does not have compassionate people in it. Jim Ford, you are better at life than Skip Bayless.
Outstanding. Oh, for a Thanksgiving weekend story. I like it.
Yeah.
My better at life is for Patrick Seahawk Duncan of the Kitsap Seahawkers. You heard that right, Adam. His middle name is Seahawk.
Wow, good for him.
I don't know if
his parents are sweet.
I think he changed it himself, but I don't know if you've seen the new show on NFL Network called Tackle My Ride, but it takes fans' rigs and it completely decks them out with team colors. And so what they did is, because Patrick has been such a big part of the Seahawks community, a big part of the Kitsap Seahawkers, he was chosen to have his 1992 Dodge Ram pickup all decked out in the old school Seahawks colors. And it's a show like this, Adam, that it makes you question not only your fandom, but just makes you feel like you should be doing a little bit more in your community. And Seahawks.com wrote an article on him just in the last couple of weeks, and it says each year Patrick grows out his hair and donates it to Locks of Love. He also shares Seahawks memorabilia with youth organizations, hosts local food drives, and this December he'll be working closely with Wreaths Across America to put wreaths on the graves of military veterans in the Bremerton area. His mother has MS and was recently diagnosed with cancer, which influenced him to participate in fundraising walks around the region to help put an end to various diseases. And so just a dude that's doing a ton in the community. And on the show, they talk about the Seahawkers Club. It shows off Patrick's old 92 Dodge Ram pickup. And it was a bummer in the show because his original truck ends up getting totaled on the way down to the shop in New Mexico that does all the customization work.
Oh, no.
Yeah. And it totally got demolished, and everybody fortunately was okay. But they end up finding him another truck, another 92 Ram.
Those are good years for those. I like the body style.
Yeah. And they just went at it, and amazing the work that they put into it. And they put the old school Hawks logo on it. Has Seahawks right on the front above the grill. And Cliff Averill is the one to drive it up and deliver it to him at the VMAC.
Really?
Yeah.
So taking a break from building houses and delivering automobiles.
Right.
He's basically, Cliff Averill is becoming the new Bob Barker. He's just giving people houses and cars and like stuff from right and left. Is that how this is going?
Apparently so. And it was cool to see a fellow 12, a fellow Seahawker get recognized and get a pretty sweet truck out of the deal. So Patrick Seahawk Duncan, for having an awesome name and an awesome new truck, better at life than Skip Bayless.
See, I'd like to agree with you, but Patrick Seahawk Duncan is also raising the bar just a little too much.
Okay? Bring it down a little bit, Pat.
Yeah, bring it down a little bit, man. I don't want to feel like an a-hole, Like, I know I don't do a ton, but I do a little. I try to help out now and then. Yeah. But, man, he's overachieving a little bit. He's a curve wrecker.
Right.
That's what
he's at the top of the bell curve for sure.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you would take a test and, like, the entire class would do poorly, and it would have been graded on a curve, and you would have ended up with an A. No, Patrick Seahawk Duncan is the guy that's still got like a 98, and you had to settle for your 82. Like that's it.
Well, Averill did knock him down a peg and gave him a hard time for not having a Cliff Averill jersey among his 200 Seahawks jerseys that he has in his closet. So,
and if you have 200 and somehow you don't have him,
I kind of got Patrick's back on this, though, because when you and I were at the stadium, I tried to find an Averill jersey in the stadium pro shop, and they didn't have it.
That's a good point. That's not Patrick's fault.
No, but he has one now because Averill signed an old school Seahawk jersey with Averill on it and gave it to him along with the car. So
very cool.
It's a cool show. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, I like that. I'm into cars. I'm into Seahawks, or I'm into football. That all works all the way around. I like it.
Well, good show, dude. Coming off of the Thanksgiving break, a bummer of a game, but hopefully, like I said, with the schedule working out, going a beautiful mind on the schedule, to me, it seems clear that it's just going to be good from here on out.
All right. Well, I'm gonna latch onto your positivity for a change instead of trying to shoot it down. I think that would be great to see. And this weekend, everybody pray for me. I'm starting Santa Claus pictures in the mall. No, I'm not Santa. I'm taking the pictures. It's still a soul-sucking deal, but I'm going to try to be happy about it. Just keep me in your prayers. That's all I'm asking.
Yeah, and if you're in the Kalispell Mall area, go and say hi.
Yeah. Yeah, if you say you listen to the show, I'm hooking you up with free pictures.
Nice.
Like that's how.
Oh, there you go. That's a good draw right there.
Unless it's you, I'm charging you double.
Oh, dang it! I'm going to Snappies. Screw you.
Okay, that's fine.
Well, with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's show. As we mentioned, if you want to help support the show, you can go to getintheflock.com, but there's other ways to support the show too. You can go to seahawkerspodcast.com/support. If you're going to a away game and want tickets, you can go there. There's plenty of other things. Or if you're looking for that next Seahawks jersey, go to Fanatics and you can click on our link at seahawkerspodcast.com/support. Get your gear through there, and a little percentage kicks back to the show.
You bet, man. Again, you're doing it anyways, so hook a brother up. I don't know that's too much to ask.
Seahawkerspodcast.com/support. Thanks again for supporting the show.